What's going on out there? It's your boy Gamer27, and once again, I want to thank you for joining my channel. And today, I want to do something different. Today, I want to talk about Sega as a whole. And of course, if you followed my channel for a while, I am such a huge fan of the Sega franchise, and the Sega Genesis was my very first console that I owned when I was a little child. And of course, Sonic the Hedgehog was my very first game that I played, and I really enjoyed that game. So it's a lot of fun, a lot funner than these new Sonic games that they've been giving us over the past years. And of course, Sonic Boom, I don't even want to talk about that. But anyway, with Sega, they got a lot of great franchise that we just wish that they can sell those IPs to Sony, Microsoft, or Nintendo. So gamers like such myself or older gamers that's been gaming since the late 80s, and up, and just give us a chance to replay those IPs such as Golden Axe, Streets of Rage, Fantasy Star, Shining Force, Crazy Taxi, House of the Dead, lots of games, Comic Zone, Shinobi. It's a lot of games, Choo Choo Rocket. And like I said, I just wish that we can relive those days and they can give us those games again so we can enjoy them like we used to. But we already know what the situation that Sega has been doing, as far as the business practices. It just wasn't a smart move of what they did a while ago, and things turned from bad to worse, and they wound up getting out the console market, and now they went straight third party. And a few years later, of course, with the fall of the Sonic Boom game, they announced that they're going to focus solely on the PC gaming and mobile devices. And I guess they did also mention that they still going to make Sonic games, but the other franchises they're just not going to make on consoles anymore, which is it sucks. But anyway, I just want to do this little review on how I feel about the Sega. I'm gonna give you a little history, from the first Sega console and all the way to the Dreamcast, and y'all just stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Sega's entry into the home console market. In 1982, Sega's revenues would surpass $214 million, and they introduced the industry first three-dimensional game, Sub-Rock 3D. The following year, an overabundance of arcade games led to the video game crash, causing Sega's revenues to drop to $136 million. Sega then pioneered the use of Laserdisc in video game Astrobelt, and designed and released its first home video game console, the SG-1000, for the second generation of home consoles. Despite this, G&W sold the U.S. assets of Sega Enterprise that same year to pinball manufacturer Bally Manufacture, and in January 1984, Rosen resigned and posted with the company. The Japanese assets of Sega were purchased for $38 million by a group of investors led by Rosen, Robert Deeth, and Hayao Nakamura, a Japanese businessman who owned Esco Boyokai, Esco Trading, and Arcade Gaming Distribution company that had been acquired by Rosen in 1979. In 1984, a Japanese company, CSK, bought Sega, renamed it to Sega Enterprise Ltd., headquartered it in Japan, and 2 years later, shares of its stocks were being traded on the Tokyo Stock Exchange. David Rosen's friend, Isao Okawa, the chairman of CSK, became the chairman of Sega. The Sega Master System. Sega will also release the Master System and the first game featuring Alex Kidd, who would be Sega's unofficial mascot until he was replaced by Sonic the Hedgehog in 1991. While the Master System was technically superior to the NES, it failed to capture market share in North America and Japan due to highly aggressive strategies by Nintendo and ineffective marketing by Tanaka, who marketed the console on behalf of Sega in the United States. However, the Master System was highly successful in Europe, Australia, New Zealand, and Brazil, with games still being sold well into the 90s alongside the Mega Drive and Nintendo's NES and SNES. Sega released the first full-body experience titles, Hang On and Afterburner, that make use of hydraulic cabinet functionality and force feedback control. Sega also released the 360-degree rotating machine, R360. For arcade system boards, Sega released the System series and the Super Scaler series. UFO Catcher was introduced in 1985 and is Japan's most commonly installed claw crane game. Sega was also one of the first introduced metal games with World Bingo, World Derby in the 1980s, a sub-industry with Japanese arcades up to its current day. Expansion and mainstream success from 1989 to 2001, and let's start with the Sega Genesis. An analog 56K modem was also included, allowing for online multiplayer. It featured titles such as action puzzle title Choo Choo Rocket, Phantasy Star Online, the first console-based MMORPG, Quake 3 Arena, Alien Front Online, the first console game with online voice chat. With the introduction of the Sega Genesis in America, Sega of America launched an anti-Nintendo campaign to carry the momentum to the new generation of games with its slogan, Genesis does what Nintendo don't.
16-bit arcade graphics. You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis does. 16-bit sports action. You can't do this on Nintendo. Genesis does. Genesis does. Genesis does. Genesis does. Genesis does.
Get Joe Montana free, Pat Riley free, Buster Douglas free, Super Monaco GP free, or Collins free.
What Nintendo don't.
Buy a 16-bit Genesis system between them.
This was initially implemented by Sega of America President Michael Katz. When Nintendo launched its Super Nintendo Entertainment System in 1991, Sega changed its slogan to Welcome to the Next Level. The same year, Sega of America leadership passed from Michael Katz to Tom Kalinske, who further escalated the console war that was developing. As a preemptive strike against the release of the SNES, Sega rebranded itself with the new game and mascot Sonic the Hedgehog.
Gotta go. Hey guy, you're the first serious gamer I've seen all morning. Check this out. Brand new 16-bit Super Nintendo with Super Mario World. Wow!
What's this one?
Oh, this is a Sonic the Hedgehog from Sega Genesis. Hey, look at these radical colors, huh?
Wow, Sonic's fast too.
No, over here.
I like Genesis, and it costs a lot less.
Wait, kid, that game
I'll
there.
take Sonic and Genesis.
I knew that.
Sonic the Hedgehog. More action, more speed. Sega Genesis. It's a whole lot more for less.
Simultaneously, after much previous delay, Sega released a moderately successful Mega CD as an add-on feature, allowing for extra storage in games due to their CD-ROM format, giving developers the ability to make longer and more sophisticated games. The most popular game was Sega's own Sonic CD. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was also released at the same time, and became the most successful game Sega has ever made, selling 6 million copies as of June 2006.
Machine has appeared in homes across America.
Double and redouble his powers. 32.
6 times more powerful than 3DO.
Alright, baby.
40 times more than Super NES.
Yo, there is no 32-bit Super NES. Are we gonna see the games or what? Show me!
Increase the power of the unit 40 times.
Thank you.
1994, Sega released the Sega 32X in an attempt to upgrade the Mega Drive to standards of more advanced systems. It sold well initially, but it had problems with lack of software and hype about the upcoming Sega Saturn and Sony's PlayStation. Within a year, it was in bargain bins of many stores. And also in 1994, Sega launched the Sega Channel, a subscription gaming service delivered by local cable companies affiliate with Time Warner Cable, or TCI, in which subscribers received a special cartridge adapter that connected to the cable connection. At its peak, the Sega Channel had approximately 250,000 subscribers. The Sega Saturn.
to go with Sega Saturn instead of Pretendo. We call them games. Sega Saturn has tons of them. Pretendo has just a few. It does beg the question, do you want to play or twiddle your thumbs? Face it, Pretendo, you weren't worth waiting for.
On May 11, 1995, Sega released the Sega Saturn with Virtua Fighter, Sega's first CD console that was not an add-on. It utilized two 32-bit processors and proceeded both on the Sony PlayStation and the Nintendo 64. However, poor sales in the West, including the traditional stronghold markets in Europe, led to the console being abandoned. The lack of strong Sonic titles or titles based on other Genesis franchises and the high price in the comparisons to the PlayStation were among the reasons why the console was a commercial failure. Notable titles include several exclusives to the Japanese market like Rated Silvergun and Sakura Tyson, fighting games such as Last Bronx, real shooters such as Panzer Dragon and the House of the Dead. You got Shining Force, Dragon Force, Shining Wisdom, Shining the Holy Ark, Magic Knight, Rayearth, Tomb Raider. It was initially developed with the Sega Saturn in mind, but was quickly ported to the Sony PlayStation. With the Saturn's failure to attract a greater market share, development for the sequels were focused on Sony's console, and Lara Croft ironically became an unofficial mascot for the system. In 1997, Sega entered into a short-lived merger with Bandai. However, it was later called off, citing cultural differences between the two companies.
We got her! Hi, Randy.
Well, hello.
It's thinking.
On November 27, 1998, Sega launched the Dreamcast, Sega's final console, in Japan. The Dreamcast was competitively priced partly due to the use of off-the-shelf components, but it also featured technology that allowed for more technically impressive games than its direct competitors, the Nintendo 64 and the PlayStation. An analog 56K modem was also included, allowing for online multiplayer. It featured titles such as action puzzle title Choo Choo Rocket, Phantasy Star Online, the first console-based MMORPG Quake 3 Arena, Alien Front Online, the first console game with online voice chat. The Dreamcast launch in Japan was a failure, launching with a small library of software and in the shadow of the upcoming PS2. The system would not gain much ground despite several successful games in the region. The Western launch a year later was accompanied by a large amount of both first-party and third-party software and an aggressive marketing campaign. It was extremely successful and earned the distinct of the most successful hardware launch in history, selling and then upre-sended 500,000 consoles in its first week in North America. The Dreamcast is home to several innovative and critically acclaimed games of all time, including one of the first cel-shaded titles, Jet Set Radio in North America. Seaman, a game involving communication with a fish-type creature, microphone, a rhythm game involving the use of maracas, and Shenmue, a large-scope adventure game with a free-form gameplay and detailed in-game city. Faced with depth and competition from Sony, Nintendo, and Microsoft, Sega discontinued producing Dreamcast consoles in 2001. The final game Sega released for it was Puyo Puyo Fever in 2004. January 31st, 2001, Sega of America officially announced they were becoming a third-party software publisher. The company has since developed into a third-party publisher that oversees games that launch on game consoles produced by other companies, many of their former rivals, the first of which was port of Choo Choo Rocket to Nintendo's Game Boy Advance. By March 31st, 2002, Sega had 5 consecutive facial years of net loss. To help with Sega's debt, CSK founder Asawa Akowa, before his death in 2001, gave the company a $695.7 million private donation and talked to Microsoft about a sale or merger with their Xbox division, but those talks failed. And the list just keep going on and on and on with these bad decision makers that Sega just continuously doing. But as me, as a Sega fan, I really enjoyed their IPs. They had really good games. Let me switch that. Great games. You know, games like Shinobi, Shining Force, Phantasy Star, Sonic the Hedgehog, you know, Comic Zone, Shenmue, Crazy Taxi, Choo Choo Rocket, House of the Dead, Virtual Tennis, Virtual Fighter. They just have so many games that I just really love, and I would really love if we could actually get those games again. Maybe they could sell those IPs to Nintendo, Microsoft, or Sony. But me, as been a gamer for over 20 years, I would love to see those franchises come back. Like, seriously. But anyway, y'all know the story. It gets from bad to worse, and now Sega is not focusing on console games anymore. They still said they're gonna make Sonic games, but they're going to focus on the mobile devices. They're gonna focus on the PC devices. But as a console gamer, the only game you're probably gonna get is a Sonic the Hedgehog game. I mean, I don't mind Sonic the Hedgehog, but if you're gonna get a game like Sonic Boom, then I am officially done with Sonic, because Sonic used to be a great game. It's just, I don't know what the hell Sega has been doing with Sonic over these past few years. Anyway, guys, y'all just let me know how y'all feel about the rise, the fall, the success with Sega, and if you game with the Sega platforms back in the day, or you sad to see that Sega is in the state that they are in right now. You know me, I am really devastated because the Sega Genesis was my very first console that I played as a child. Sonic the Hedgehog was my very first video game I played as a child, and it sucks. And as a consumer and as a fan, I'm really devastated with this most recent news about Sega is going to focus on PC gaming and mobile devices, but they still said they're going to continue that and give us Sonic the Hedgehog franchise. But if you'll get a game similar to Sonic Boom, then I'm done with Sonic for real. But anyway, guys, y'all just let me know how y'all feel about this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. And once again, she's your boy Rick Gamer 27, and y'all have a good day.